Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Bluesman, sXeblues, and I have a brief set of reviews for some DC Comics New 52 issues number 4 in the form of Catwoman, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and Justice League. Starting us off, we're going to be looking at Catwoman number 4. This issue begins with Selina in the throes of tremendous pain, and adding to the beating by beating herself up for being brought to that point to begin with. Flashback to 3 days earlier, and we find her where we left her in issue number 3, hovering over the body of her friend Lola as cops bust through the door of the apartment. With some quick thinking resulting from the successful casing she made of the apartment visually as she entered, she finds a bottle of alcohol and tosses it at the fireplace, making it explode big enough so that she can make off out the window with the body of her friend in tow. At Lola's funeral a bit later, she's mulling over the guilt she feels for having to cover her tracks by smearing Lola's good name and tying her death to gangsters, which isn't far from the truth as it turns out. As she's leaving, she meets up with an old friend named Gwen Altamont. They used to have fun getting into trouble when they were younger. We find that Gwen's a fence now too, and she offers Selina help if she ever needs it. And even though Selina tells her to her face that she may yet call, she really has no intention of calling whatsoever, though I suspect we'll see Gwen again sometime soon. Meanwhile, we get a glimpse of Detective Alvarez, a cat busted down from a successful career in homicide to robbery division after stumbling onto a crooked mayor shacked up with drugs and prostitutes. He's hot on the tail, per se, of 17 robberies he believes to be the work of one lone perp, and wants his boss to allow for a forensic tech to look over the evidence, but he's basically hitting a wall. But we catch up with Selina again soon thereafter as she's out on the prowl once again. She's gotten info from a diphead named Bertram about a smaller job than she's used to, but, one she considers to be a cakewalk. Drug runners, cash moving from the same place for the last 3 weeks, meaning they're getting stupid and complacent. So, as Catwoman, she busts into their territory, and just as things look like they've fallen into place, out come the electro bolts of new foe Reach, a chick Selina chalks up as an Amazon leg breaker. This is apparently where we found Selina at the beginning, as she had been, tossed onto the roof of a car and through a trash canister. Apparently she's being tossed around like a rag doll by this chick, Reach. And though she gets a few good punches in of her own, the issue basically ends, shall we say, with things a bit up in the air, and that's where I'll leave it. As far as showing a page in this issue, the somewhat shocking debut of new character Reach, I'm wondering if this has any ties to do with Gwen, who we saw earlier in the issue, or, if this is someone new entirely, but I think there are hints that this character will be around in the next couple issues, so, pretty exciting overall. As far as rating this issue, I'm definitely going 4 out of 5. I absolutely love this Catwoman run so far, and I can't say enough good things about Gilliam March, the artist on this book. I've really fallen head over heels for his style, especially where it comes to drawing Catwoman's face, her expressions. They just always get me interested in what's going on with her and how it's affecting her as a character. It just makes it that much more enjoyable. But that's going to do it for Catwoman number 4. Moving on, we're going to be looking at Wonder Woman number 4. This issue opens in Darfur with Apollo visiting his air quotes brother War, coming under the guise of checking up on him, and there's some banter about, how they keep the world spinning, out of control, as it were, but more on this in a bit. Back in London, we find Wonder Woman in a somewhat unconventional place, in a crowd of bar-goers rocking out to a band's live performance, somewhat decked out in t-shirt and jeans and leather. We find that Zola, Hermes, and Strife are all there with her, and that Hermes is concerned about Diana's demeanor after the stunning revelation in the previous issue that Zeus is her father. But Zola knows all too well that Diana's communing, being part of a group, sharing in the love of the music, and in essence trying to feel whole again. Strife seems to be overdoing the sisterly act, trying to bond with her, but Diana's really not going along with it. As this is unfolding, thunder and lightning are raining down on Paradise Island, and with it brings Hera, a woman scorned as Hippolyta describes her. But back at the bar, Strife's intentions are now being called into question by Hermes as well. But she's holding to her revealing of the truth of Diana's origins as being for her own good. Hermes points out that Hera will have a pound of flesh for, what's happened, and Strife indicates that the baby in Zola's belly is a potential payment. Diana comes over and grabs her hand, slams it down on the bar, and then jams a broken glass through Strife's hand, basically to make her point that that's not going to happen. Diana goes on to state plainly that this shows well enough what the concept of family means to the gods. As Strife leaves the bar with some menacing words hanging over the air, we shift back to Paradise Island again. The confrontation between Hera and Hippolyta is not going well at first. Hera is angry, and what's a bit surprising is Hippolyta seems to be showing guilt for her hiding Diana as she's done up to now. As the Amazons have crept up to the scene, Hippolyta begs Hera for forgiveness. She's knelt down and hands her axe over to Hera, and it appears as though Hera is going to strike her down, but instead she kneels down to embrace her. Meanwhile, Diana and Zola, back at the apartment, are discussing Zola's lack of any real family herself, or home as the case may be, and this touches base with Diana, which is really interesting. She silently resolves to, return to Paradise Island even though she said she wouldn't. And using Hermes' teleporting rod, once there, Wonder Woman finds to her horror that all her sisters have been turned to serpents, and her mother is now a stone statue. As the issue ends, we meet up with Apollo in War one last time, as I said we would, and his revelation to War that Zeus has gone missing and is potentially killed also reveals Apollo's true intentions for confronting War to begin with, and that's all I'll say. Pretty heavy stuff, put it that way. As far as showing a page in this issue, the moment when Diana grabs that glass and shoves it through the hand of Strife is pretty epic for Wonder Woman standards. And, as far as rating this issue, I'm definitely going to go 4 out of 5. Another great issue in this new saga for Wonder Woman. And but that'll actually be getting us on to Supergirl number 4. We pick up with Supergirl in this issue after she's been captured by the Lex Luthor wannabe Mr. Tycho at the end of the previous issue. Tycho's got her encased in a glass tube surrounded by kryptonite and has both been running tests on her as well as her suit, also effectively licking his wounds by going over the repairs of his satellite. Perhaps unexpectedly, Kara's actually gained an ally in the form of this cat named Jacobs that was one of the pilots of the armored warsuits that attacked her in issue number 1. Even though she can't understand him, she realizes he's broken her out for her own good, but they end up walking right into the waiting hands of Tycho and his men. Tycho orders one of his men to kill Jacobs, and Jacobs is effectively taken down. They attempt to subdue Kara as well, but, she's not surrounded by kryptonite now, so she unleashes hell by plowing through the crowd. She reclaims her suit and continues to beat and throw any opposition that tries to interfere. She can't understand exactly how she's able to, but she's using her powers much more instinctively now, and she's enjoying it. At this point, she goes to confront Tycho face to face, and he produces a red crystal, which we saw in the previous issue. Kara recognizes it as a sunstone. She believes her father must have put a message on it, and while Tycho has no idea what it is for certain, he knows that she'll find it valuable. He's been able to loosely track the point of its origin on a star map, presumably Krypton, and by way of distraction, Kara uses her laser vision to shoot through the floor, an act Tycho at first thinks was poorly aimed shot at him, but really it was meant to fry the core of the satellite. After retaining the sunstone, Kara gets out of there, but she feels bad for having caused so much damage and the people she may have hurt as a result. Speaking of which, Tycho is blown all to hell, and as Kara is left contemplating what she'll do next, take the sunstone to the man claiming to be her cousin Kal-El or whatever, we're left at the end with the horrible realization that Tycho has not only survived, but he considers himself to be the winner, and that's all I'll say. As far as showing a page in this issue, I want to go with that moment when Supergirl blasts through the wall to confront Tycho. Just a really epic scene, and again, I'm enjoying this book. So as far as rating it, I'm going to go 4 out of 5, and that'll actually be moving us on to Justice League number 4. We open this issue where we left off, with Victor Stone just having been reconfigured with cybernetics as a result of his father's attempting to keep him alive after the explosion we saw in the previous issue. He's disoriented and struggling as the programming of his new body is attempting to sync up with the rest of him. But parademons have broken through the door, and Vic's suit reacts instinctively, firing his white noise cannon at the creatures. Vic eventually sees his own reflection and is horrified by what he sees, and when confronted by his father, who tells him what happens, he ends up fleeing. Back in Metropolis, we catch up with Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Wonder Woman, who've just encountered Aquaman for the first time. Arthur is apparently thinking of being the leader of this impromptu team, which leads to some bickering between he and Hal. Flash trying to be the voice of reason, but Hal insists he wants to know what Aquaman thinks he can do compared to Superman, Wonder Woman, and himself, at which point parademons come screaming toward them. Arthur signals a school of sharks to come flying up out of the water, somewhat spectacularly, taking out all but one of the creatures. That one he confronts himself with his trident. As Hal is left somewhat speechless from this show, military helicopters come flying onto the scene, shooting. Steve Trevor is piloting one of them, and he's pretty PO'd that they're firing on the heroes, particularly Wonder Woman, but he's told to back down. Meanwhile, Victor, stumbling through alleys, overhears a girl screaming for help and fends off parademons from attacking her. His suit's programming recognizes unassimilated data and begins downloading and translating it automatically, revealing such commands as locate inhabited worlds, harvest organic materials, all of which are apparently for Darkseid. Upon its completion, it locates the signal's source and teleports Victor out of there. Back with the team, we see Superman reasoning that they've got to take the choppers out somehow. As he and Flash head off to do so, there's a funny little moment where Hal has inadvertently touched Wonder Woman's truth-telling lasso, and it's revealed aloud that he does most of the things he does to impress people, and this makes Batman laugh off panel, which is just a really funny moment. Just then, Victor pops in via teleport, and Hal scoops him up, thinking he's a parademon. Victor's struggling to tell them someone's coming, and just as Batman asks who, there's a huge explosion. Now, this may be a big spoiler for some of you, so I don't want to screw it up for you. As far as rating this book, it's definitely going to go 4 out of 5. I won't be offended if you stop it here, so you don't have to find out before reading it what happens, but I will be revealing that. Okay, now, for those of you that are staying, it's too big for me to hold off mentioning, but coming out of the explosion is the bad man himself, Darkseid. And before the heroes even have a chance to react, he causes another explosion which sends them all flying, and that's basically where the issue ends. Darkseid is badass, let me just say that. As for showing a page in this issue, I want to go with that epic 2-page spread, not the one that debuts Darkseid, but the one where he causes an explosion that sends all the heroes flying. Just really, really awesome work from Jim Lee here, and just like the last issue where we had the 2-page spread of Wonder Woman, in issue number 2 we had a 2-page spread of Superman. These are definitely gorgeous, gorgeous pieces. And as I said, this is going to be rating 4 out of 5. Solid issue. I loved it. And that's pretty much going to do it for this set of DC's New 52 reviews. I hope you've gotten a kick out of this, and if you're not reading these books, I highly suggest you do. Meanwhile, please, like, favorite, subscribe, comment down below if you so choose, and I will catch you next time. Peace.